All right, so today I just wanted to do a quick video about all the factors you should take into account when buying your first set of kite gear. I'm really talking about someone with no experience. Obviously, you should take lessons. That's always the first step I recommend for everybody. This isn't a sport you should be learning on your own, but here are the top factors to take into account when you're buying that first set of kite equipment. First, how much time you're spending on the water. You could be a weekend warrior that gets one weekend a month, or you could be a beach rat that just lives at the beach, that has access to the beach all the time. The way that you're gonna go about learning is gonna be completely different in each of those scenarios. You may actually wanna buy different equipment. So for someone who's a weekend warrior and who's only gonna get a day a month, they may wanna buy more specialized equipment that gives them a leg up while learning, something that's really geared towards beginners. Where someone who just has a ton of time to figure things out might want to buy equipment that's going to work for them when they're more advanced. It'll be a little bit harder while they're learning, but they'll save money in the long run. Cool. So that brings us to the second factor, the budget, right? So if you have less budget constraints, you might want to buy more specialized beginner gear that you could outgrow. If you have less of a budget, you may want to buy the gear that will work for you a year or two down the road that may just give you more challenges now while you're learning, right? Everyone's got different budgets, and the nice thing about the kite industry is there's kind of all of the choices out there, ranging from used equipment from a couple of years ago all the way to brand new, super high-tech Alula kites that are like $4,000 a kite. So the next factor after that is weight. Body weight. People always forget this, but it's basically a completely different sport if you're 250 pounds compared to someone who might be riding at 110 or 120 pounds. The heavier rider might need to be looking at 17-meter kites, 15-meter kites, maybe 154 centimeter light wind, bigger boards to get them out and riding, while the smaller rider should be looking at more at 12-meter kites, 9-meter kites, 7-meter kites, potentially smaller boards in the 130 or 142 centimeter range. So another big factor there is the weight of the rider. After that, you want to look at the wind ranges and the wind quality where you're going to be riding most. Someone who's riding in Cape Town and is used to 30 knots is going to buy very different equipment to someone who is riding here in Shelter Island, where I'm typically riding in like 8 knots, 9 knots, 10 knots on these super light wind summer days. So the wind ranges, the typical wind ranges, are going to drastically affect the equipment you buy. And then after that, the wind quality may affect the equipment that you buy. So if you're in just kind of like a perfectly smooth, consistent hairdryer wind location, lucky for you, you might be able to buy different kites. Whereas if you're in a super gusty spot, you may want 5-strut kites that just have a little bit more stability and can handle those gusts when they hit you. All right, so next factor after that is gonna be the water conditions. Are you riding in a spot that's super shallow water? Are you riding in a spot that's just really buttery smooth? Is it super choppy? Are there huge waves? All of these things may weigh into what you decide to do. So if it's obviously super shallow, that rules out foiling. If it's big waves, you may want to get a surfboard. Some of these are more advanced types of riding, and so you may just do like a general free ride kite surfboard that kind of works in a variety of conditions. But if it's a super choppy spot, you may look for a board that rides well in chop. This one's really often overlooked. What do the locals ride around you? Are they riding core kites? Are they riding north kites? Are they riding slingshot kites? That's going to affect whether you're able to sell gear that you don't like. That's also going to affect whether you're able to pick up cheaper used gear from other riders around you. And so I think it does make sense to take into account what brands of kite equipment do people ride around you. Because if you're the only one riding your gear, you're going to have a tough time selling it, and you're going to have a tough time buying new local used gear at kind of much better prices. The last factor that you're going to take into account is what's the type of riding that you're going to be doing. Most new riders are going to be just free riding, so they're going to be looking for general free ride equipment. You may be wanting to get into freestyle, you might want to get into wave riding, you might want to get into foiling, and depending on those interests, you may want to buy gear that's at least a little bit more flexible, has a little bit more range to it so that it can do those things in the future. Cool, there you have it. Those are my 7 factors to take into account when buying your first kite equipment. Obviously, that's not exhaustive. Speak to your local shops. They're always gonna have the best advice for you. But for those of you that are new, that are looking to get new equipment, hopefully some of these tips help you out. Thanks for watching.